Can I tell you about FYRE Rises? FYRE Rises is a film about a former mercenary whose last mission traumatized him with what went on, and he's tried to walk away from that life, become a family man, and unfortunately lives in Britain, so quickly in debt to the wrong people, and as a result has to come out and reluctantly has to take on this one last job for someone of power, and it just sparks from that, where we then find out what kind of guy he was before he became a downtrodden family man. For when writing it, obviously, when you write stories like this, stories about, is it about redemption? Is it about this? What's the redeeming thing? And for me, with this character, it was all about consequence, because every decision he doesn't take, or every decision he does make, the consequence is far greater than he understands. So where he's reluctant to inflict violence, because he doesn't, something happens. You know what I mean? If he'd have done this job, if he'd have killed Hitler at the beginning, there wouldn't have been World War. You know what I mean? But then he has this call of conscience. So then World War II happens, if you like. Whereas because he keeps stopping, doesn't do what he needs to do, and he doesn't realise the consequences that's going on. So for me, the film was always about consequence rather than redemption or revenge, or it was just every decision he makes, whether he did it the right decision, the wrong decision, just had a consequence that he wasn't aware of until right at the end. It was so for me, FYRE's more about that than running around with guns and killing people and going to Spain and LA's and whatnot. So we just had a screening of our last film, 24 Little Hours, and everyone was going, "Oh, this is good. What's next?" And we got approached by a producer and financer, and he said, "Pitch me a story for this kind of budget." So I came up with, originally the film was called Kill Shot. And while talking with him, it's gone from this killer, this sniper who gets called out of retirement to do this job, to what FYRE became. And then by the time I'd wrote the script, sat down with the producer then, and we went over it, he said, "Brilliant, love it." And then the first lot of COVID lockdowns happened. So from a business sense, mate, I'm not putting no money into nothing. I've got to stay fluid, liquid, and all the rest of it. But now I've got this. I'm sitting at home twiddling my thumbs while the world's all in lockdown. So I start finessing the script, and that's where FYRE came from this kill shot, became FYRE Rises. And then within a year, that year, the producer Damien Morley, who I'd worked with on 24 Little Hours, we said, "Look, this film now has to be made. Let's just go make it." So we actually took the profits of 24 Little Hours, which for a small indie, we wasn't expecting much, but because of lockdown, everyone was stuck at home with wanting new content to watch. So our numbers actually did quite well. So for what we made on that, we reinvested it with a couple of other bits of money and put it into FYRE. So that's how it came about. We was prepping for it, and like I say, it's weird for me now that I've seen the finished product. But originally, it was a whole crew. I think out of all the cast that's in the film in its end result, only 3 were original cast. I had a completely different cast in mind. We wardrobed, we discussed it with different actors. And 6 days, well, literally the week before principal photography, 85% of my cast, for whatever reasons connected to COVID and other factors, pulled out, and my camera crew pulled out. And it was like, well, we've already booked, because it's COVID, it was like everyone was grabbing money, so no one was giving you refunds. We'd already paid for a few things. We already, because it was bubbles, because it was COVID, so the first 5 days we was in Basildon, and we had to put everyone in a Premier Inn, so we've had to pay for like 20 rooms. And then after that, we went to a place called Pendley Manor up in Tring. huge estate. But again, because it's a bubble, we've had to pay for the hire of this place and the rooms for everyone to stay there. So it was, I think the cast was open. We was going to postpone, so they felt better. But of course, I'd be down everything we've already spent. And on indie, when most of us are freelancers, we don't have a big company behind us. So every penny you spend, if you're not using it, that's gone money. So I just made the decision of, let's recast. Let's just go out, spend the next week grabbing who we can, auditioning. And that's what we did, much to the annoyance of the original cast. We just cracked on. But because our lead went, then that was the biggest thing. Obviously, the lead disappears. That was something, because obviously that character's throughout the film. And it was, we reached out to a couple of people, and again, COVID, every actor seemed to be doing something other, like COVID testing or COVID marshal or working on something. So they were all Zoom in and whatever. And then it was a case of, okay, and then we reached out to a mutual filmmaker, Greg Hall, and he suggested Paul Marlon. He said, don't let the fact that he's a redhead put you off. He's a good actor. So obviously, yeah, it was just a case of speaking with Paul and saying, well, look, we start filming on Monday. You in or you're out? Because if you're out, tell me today. My next phone call's another actor. And he was, I give him his dues. It was a lot to take on. And like I say, and it wasn't just his role. I'm recasting basically every other role as we went. And but come the Monday, all I did was reshuffle some scenes. So we had the schedule, and then obviously try and give Paul a bit more time to read over the script and read the lines, as well as recruit new cast. So every day, although you're on set, half my day was talking to other actors. Can you come in? Can you do this? Can you do that? It was, yeah. Any indie filmmaker's going to tell you that filmmaking's hard. It's harder when you've got to create literally all the pre-production work meant jack crap, because I had to do it all again while in production. And I forgot what the question is. It's just, you think back all that time, and it's half of you wants to get annoyed and half of you just relieved. Because like I said, when we had the screening, and I even said to my missus Diane, I said, we watched it up in the thing with everyone, and once I seen it, and I mean, being the editor, you see it many times, but once we saw that finished product, I couldn't imagine the film with the original cast. It just didn't make sense to me at all after that. And I think, obviously, things happen for a reason, and I'm kind of glad that happened. I know it's weird to say because of how much pressure it gave us, but it is, we ended up, I think, with a stronger product, if that makes sense. So. Was I ever stressed? No. I love it. I love stress. I'm one of those people, I don't crumble. The more stress, the more you rise to the challenge. And I probably put that down to, like, for 14 years I was a doorman. You just love it. You know what I mean? You're built for any incident that comes your way. So for me, it just meant you got to think of a different way to deal with a problem. I mean, I know some filmmakers, and not just filmmakers, just some people, that the slightest thing, if they've looked at something a certain way and it hasn't gone that way, they just crumble. It seems to take them longer to readapt than it would have just been to just crack on and make a mistake, So for me, under pressure, no. Because like I say, it was then, you knew you had to redo the schedule. There's a role with someone from the FYRE's past that comes in, but he couldn't do the day we had the location. So, but we had every other actor. So when we went in, obviously, I had to go in with the edit in mind, because I had to shoot it one way with everything that we've just already paid for, but knowing I had to then come back several days later to do a reverse angle to put this other actor into the thing, to try and tie into everything. So, that was one of the benefits of editing, because then I can plan it and when you watch the film, you wouldn't know that's the scene because it all feels like they're all in there at the same time. So I don't think it stressed so much, but just gave me more reason to be creative. This is the British indie scene. I think you've got to be able to do every job and wear every hat because there isn't the money to get a separate editor or a separate this or a separate that. The budget, the micro budget area, and I'm talking to like 500k and less. If you're not doing all the jobs, there's, you know what I mean? It doesn't make sense to me. I think, you know, I know plenty of filmmakers. So I wrote FYRE. So to me, I wrote one story. As a director, I directed another story. And then as the editor, I then edited a different story. It's all the same thing. But what's on the edit isn't what was on the script, if that makes sense. So it's not a case of, I'm not changing my mind, this is it. Everything was organic and grown because of all the changes we had to make every day. You know, the final edit, the original cut was 2 hours and 2.5 hour run. Well, any director who's that kind of way, who writes it, films it, and then edits it, would go, that's my cut. Where it's like, well, no, I cut 45 minutes. You know what I mean? So you got to cut those scenes where I guess if you're an editor who's not the director, they wouldn't think twice, mate, story. It's about story, it's about pace, it's about flow. But I can make that decision rather than go, oh no, I filmed it, it's all got to stay in. So I don't have it that way. I can put on the different hat and look at it from different angles and not go, oh no, let me make it 20 minutes longer so I can include that one scene. It's like, no, cutthroat, boom, boom. And if you get a bad performance, can I cut that down? Can I cut it out? Can I do? So I think the good thing about editing on a film that you directed at this level is any mistakes, when they say fix it in post, if it's you doing it, you can fix it in post. So I guess that's the difference. Yes, so Aaron Sidwell, yes, phenomenal actor. So he came onto my radar from the guy who was originally going to play FYRE before Paul stepped in and took over, marvellously, I should add. I had this concept for Priest, who was very flamboyant, was into reggae. So in my head, this was Priest. He was a reggae religious guy, almost an evangelist type. And I said to the actor, look, I'm auditioning people, and he went to Aaron and he said, Aaron, you've got to read this part. If you do a tape, I'll get it under Paul's nose. And Aaron, as you see, Priest, that's how Aaron auditioned. I've still got the audition tape. It blew me away. I just couldn't picture. He came in, obviously with Priest, he's got that white Joker face, he's got the black nail polish on. In this audition, he became Priest in the audition. And it was like, okay, you've got me hooked, because now I can't see my character any other way than this way. And like I say, I talked to Aaron, I said, yeah, this is great. And we discussed how we could take the character more. And Aaron was very set with how he envisioned Priest. And then, of course, when that actor dropped out of playing FYRE, I was on the verge of losing Aaron. And I literally, everyone else, I was like, you know what, you can all go, because, you're not giving me a reason. It's just... But for Aaron, I actually practically almost begged him not to drop out. And because he said, well, because how much I'm putting myself out there in this character, the guy I was going to be playing opposite, obviously I trusted him. You got that thing against actors that you can just let yourself go. And I said, let me find the new FYRE. Let me put you two together. If you honestly believe I haven't picked someone of the same caliber or better, then drop out. Be ashamed to lose you, but I understand. And then, like I say, within a day, I'm talking to Paul Marlon, clicked with him straight away, good guy. And so I said to Aaron, look, I found the guy. Because obviously, from Aaron's point of view, it's like, well, how can someone you've only met, within a day, we start filming in 3 days. And I said, look, if I push your scene further in the schedule, then Paul would have had a good week to 10 days getting embedded into this character. But in the meantime, if you talk to him, and obviously Aaron saw something in Paul that I saw in Paul, that Aaron said, yes, I feel comfortable, let's do it. And obviously their scenes together is, well, just Aaron even on his own, but in the intensity of him and Paul, FYRE's character, just the intimacy, because of the way Aaron played it, the way Paul feeds off of it, it's some great scenes. And keeping Aaron was a bonus, because like I say, was just another character I've had to recast, and I don't think I would have got that performance if someone who, within 3 days or whatever. So catching Aaron was amazing, and he is clockwork. I mean, he was on, I think it was EastEnders. I got to admit, I don't watch these soaps, so people say I'm on Holly, I'm on this, I'm on that. I don't watch them, so I just take your word. I just take your word for it. So I know he was on EastEnders for a number of years, and obviously TV is very different the way they film, because Aaron is like a robot. He will do the thing, and then he'll go, do another take, and he'll go, yeah, and he'll give you the same take. He knows where the camera is. He knows to turn half an inch. Bang. It was amazing to watch because he was flawless. Because we shot all these scenes in one day, because again, COVID, you can't keep having people coming in and out. So he's done all these scenes in one day. And he was just, I'd never seen anything like it, to be fair. And he was consistent. It didn't matter where we stopped or where we picked up. It was like it was continuous. So Aaron is amazing. Why he's not doing more, or perhaps he chooses not to, I don't know. But it was a pleasure to work with, that's for sure. Yes, when he did the audition tape, it was very goth. So Marilyn Manson, you say about the Joker, but it was Marilyn Manson that was more the inspiration. The valve, the things, the braces. I mean, the way he did the audition, it was very Marilyn Manson. And then when we was discussing wardrobe, it was like, well, we don't want to go this. Let's give him, the bib and braces type jobby, because of how he goes. So we tried to make him as you can on a small budget, in his wardrobe with flair. And every time you see him, it was always with an outlandish shirt, or he was doing something this, or the makeup and the lipstick, and it was just, it was very creative. And you could see if we'd have gone a bit more campy with the FYRE character, making him more the Batman, if you like, rather than the Punisher, I guess that's what it would have been like. But I think the contrast is that come the final showdown, obviously, Paul's character, by the time he meets Priest, he starts off with 20 guns. By the time he reaches Priest, all he's got is his knuckles. The way then that scene plays out is just, it falls in line with how Priest has always been portrayed, how FYRE's always portrayed. I just thought it was a good ending, that was all.
As in like a British fantasy movie.
Everyone involved in FYRE, because so many people get killed in this film, it's untrue. Everyone wants a prequel. In fact, they want a prequel more than they want a sequel, because they're all dead. Even Harriet Thorpe, who we got in as a cameo, who plays the Gloria, the loan shark, even she was pitching a spin-off movie that her and her sister would be played by Sherry Hewson. Are they in this world, and with Aaron's you know what I mean? It's like everyone then saw this universe, and then it was like, okay, that's great, we can do that, and we can see priests rise, and we can see the wolf packs formation, and we would have saw a different thing of FYRE, because we up at that point had been doing little odd jobs for this guy. So I guess you would see that, but would it have been as interesting? I mean, it's like that old adage, it's a shame you killed Priest off. I'm always thinking always, did he die? But considering how we see him go, you've got to take it that he did. You're always thinking, could I bring him back? And I spoke to Aaron about it, but he wouldn't want to come back. not as Priest. So it was, we toyed with the twin brother angle for a sequel and all that. And he said, well, no, because I've done it. So give me a different film instead, Paul, and I'll work with you on a different film then. So although everyone's up for a prequel because they all love the characters and all want to come back, I'll go for the sequel.
Okay.
Well, why not? No. The thing with, again, this goes, we shot in Spain or anywhere else for, it's British indie. You know what I mean? We're used to, most indie films of this genre in this country are shot either in a boozer, strip club, boxing gym, someone's beige or white wall house, and they feel very British. They have no sellability outside of the UK, and even then it's more London than up north. No one in Scotland or Manchester gives a rat's ass about London. You know what I mean? So it's a very small audience. You're then having to recoup your costs to earn enough money to make another film, because that's all the business is. That's why it's called show business and not show. There's a reason why the word business is in there. So I tried to make it as appealable as possible. Now, obviously, I couldn't, although we did shoot a bit in the States, I can't take the whole film to the States. That's just a cost that's beyond us. But flying out to Spain, or, originally it was going to be Bulgaria, because I've got contacts and film people out in Bulgaria. But again, COVID, all the borders were shut. So it said, okay, let's make it Spain, because who doesn't want to go to Spain for a week? So that's why we shot out there. A bit of sun. One, just from the production point of view, is we're not in London. We're not in Essex. We're not around the M25. We've gone to another country, guys. And it just adds production value, which at the time, because of no one was flying, so flights were cheap and Airbnbs were cheap because they wasn't renting them out. It was almost the equivalent of getting a fancier location in London than it was to send about 14 of us with cast and crew to Spain. So it made sense from start to finish. It's a weird answer, because if I did it from a production point of view, I would just count the days we was actually on set. But the reality is, we filmed a big chunk, about 2.5 weeks, because we was at Penley for 10, was at Thing for 5, 6. So about almost 3 weeks we shot solid. And then the next bit was Spain. But again, you couldn't fly because of quarantines. And so that was like a 6-month, 7-month gap. And then we finally got to Spain. And then once Spain was out of the way, it was like, we wanted to do this this other shot that's part of the flashback where Paul, obviously, he's got a beard. If you ever see him, he's got a beard. But in the film, we wanted to do this 15-year flashback to which he had to be shaved. So I wanted to make sure all the present-day fire bits had been shot. So we was waiting for Spain and that was it. So then we could get Paul back, shave him to make it look like it was in the past, and then shoot this other bit. And then, like I say, we did the edit, and then we was like, we watched the edit, and it was like, other things come on. I worked on a couple of other movies, and then it was a case of something's missing from the first act. We need something around this mark. So we then went out and shot over Christmas 2022. We just shot this one silly little scene to establish the Wolfpack leader. I mean, literally, although it was a 3-minute scene, I cut that down to a minute. It was a case of, that was it. But then we was filming, so technically we was filming Christmas 2023. Christmas 2024. And then in April 2023, we flew out to LA to shoot a couple of cameos with Eric Robertson, Cynthia Rothrock. So again, filming. So then you think, you're filming in 2023. And then we come back with them. We filmed another day with Joseph Milson, who was part of the same scene. So again, for me, we started in 2021 So for me, I was filming all the way to 2023. But like I say, if you condense that down, it'd probably be like 4 weeks. But so it's a weird question for me because it's that gap of not shooting and then you're shooting, and then it's a gap of no shooting and then you're shooting again. So yeah, in a roundabout way, it was either way you want to look at it, almost 3 years, or it was 4 weeks. It was depends how you want to look at it. Everyone in the film, crew and thing, with us. So again, at that stage, if you wanted to leave the country, you needed your NHS. We've had the vaccine part, and they had to be at least 8 weeks old. You know what I mean? So it wasn't a case of, let's just book a Ryanair and away we go. Everyone had to get tests, and of course, everyone had different beliefs about COVID or their stance on it, or the mask or the lockdown. And you can't ask people to change their personal feelings about something. But it was a case of, guys, if we're going to go Spain, this is what's needed. You're cool. And I think more people wanted to go to Spain than was worried too much about the COVID issue. So everyone got vaccinated and off we went. So, but yeah, we took them all. And obviously, the funny thing about it is, as an indie filmmaker, guerrilla filmmaker, you're always trying to grab a cheeky extra bit of production value. So as we was flying over to Spain, we went, look, let's shoot this scene on the plane. And everyone's going, you can't do that, can't do that. I was like, no. This shoot, there's only 2 people sitting. We've only got to put the camera here, the sound guy behind them. And I'd purposely booked the seats, the 2 rows next to each other, so I knew we were behind the thing. We was going to be in front of them, both sides of the plane. So we sealed off this little thing of the plane. And we waited for the trolley girl come up, and she done the lunches and that. And then we said, right, we've got an hour and a half before we've got to all be in our seats and seatbelts on. Let's do this scene. So obviously it's on a plane, so we're not got an ARRI thing. We've got a black magic pocket, and the sound guy's already rigged himself up in the seat behind it with the mic poking through the 2 seats and whatnot. And so we start now getting up on the arm. We're doing a bit, and it's FYRE and Ellie having this conversation as they fly out to Spain. And the stewardess comes over and she says, "What are you doing? Do you have permission?" To which I cheekily turned around and went, "Yeah, I run a YouTube channel." And she went, "That's all I need to know. Thank you very much. Get on with it." And that was it. So because obviously it wasn't all lights and booms and that, she just assumed we were bloggers. So we filmed what we needed to do. The passengers on the plane were lovely because they could see the cameras coming out, and they always stood quiet. It was going to Spain, so that could have quite easily went the other way. And we filmed the scene on the plane. We get to Spain, we shoot everything that we need out there. And then when we're coming back, we're thinking, you know what, we could grab another little scene on the plane. And obviously, it's the character of FYRE who's coming back from Spain. But he's all been beaten up. So, of course, Paul, bless him, has to come through customs, and he's Paul Marlon, he's pristine. And then once we get on the plane, we all sit down, we figure out what we're going to do, and he's got to go off to the toilet, bruise himself up, put cuts and plasters and bandages on him, comes back out to the shock of the rest of the things. And it's meant to be a night shoot, and of course we're flying during the day. And God bless them, all the passengers all closed their blinds for us and everything, and they went quiet. It was literally one cutaway shot of Paul sitting in his thing with this stewardess come up, because obviously now there's a passenger with all this blood and on it. And that was quite good, because they could have quite easily just went now, or the passengers, but yeah, they all put their blinds down, so you thought it was night. It was a great concept. Spain was a good experience because we met everyone who was allowed us to do what we needed to do rather than making it an issue and spoiling it, so. Well, like I say, to be on the plane itself, to be fair, they did question. But were happy with, I think they're just used to bloggers, people come, cameras are so small that everyone, and they're doing their little TikToks and whatnot. I think because we wasn't intrusive, and we stayed within our 3 tiers of our 3 rows. We didn't go up and down the plane or anything. I think we got cut some slack. I'm sure on a full flight, we would have been told, oh, sit in your seat, don't get up. But no, they was good as gold. Because we officially shouldn't have been flying, I can't say the airline. But, yeah, it's the cabin crew and passengers were fantastic on that one. The most rewarding scene on FYRE for me is strange, because like I say, the bar scene, which we had to film in 2 parts, to me means that, because I know what technical thing that was to put together. So for me, it's silly little things. I know it should be, it's this big set piece and it's that big set piece, but it was it was that because the technicality of the edit and planning out the shoot. There's a shootout scene where Paul comes in at this great big staircase that we get to do a lovely bit of slow-mo and all the rest of it. That was a nice shot. But it's the dialogue scenes, the scene between Paul and the neighbour Catherine, right near the end of the film. Brilliant scene. I loved editing that. I loved watching it back. It killed me to cut from it, but every scene had something cut from it. I just thought the chemistry between the 2 actors was great. What was being said was great. The performances was there. So that I loved. Obviously, Aaron's as Priest's day, some great bits there, especially when you've cut it in then with the edit, with everything else that's going on in the film. And it's little things like I guess for me, I like it because some of the CGI that's in there that you don't know is CGI. And I guess you had to be there to know. So I know there's one scene, Paul's character comes into the room, this bedroom scene, and there's girls in bunny mask, neon bunny mask. So I know when we filmed that, it was daylight and there was a great big window right outside the door. But of course it's not come the film because it's nighttime and you CGI out the window. So it's little things like that for me, because if they go unnoticed, then I've done something right. But so I guess I look at the film differently, because it's the little touches that people would just take for granted that I know I spent like months like putting in flares on a light and cropping out and masking around people just to add that extra element. So I guess it's different for me. I'm sure other people will watch it and they'll love this scene and they'll talk about that scene or they'll talk about that moment. But for me, it's the bits that the audience shouldn't know are in the film, if that makes sense. You know what? I never wanted to be in this industry at all. I had no desire to get into film. So I was a doorman for 14 years. And needless to say, I run with some certain elements of people. And there was always stories there. And other people who had their own stories, and I'm not going to get into their business. But there was one guy in particular, came out of Boreham Wood, involved in the drug trade. And I wrote a book that was loosely based on my life, but it was a fiction book, but the names have been changed to protect the innocent type stuff. And he just brought out a similar book, but he put all the names in it. So we was kind of on a book circuit at the same time. Now I just, whatever, if you've got a story to tell, I find it's just easier to write it down, then the story's gone. It just sits in the background. But he had this ad that they're going to turn his film into a movie. All right, so this is like 2007, 2008. So every time, and this was on the days of MySpace. So, for all the kids out there was this thing before Twitter and Facebook and Instagram. So he had we communicate with each other. And he says, "Oh, my book's out, and how's your book doing?" And I go, "Yeah, it's doing all right. We sold this many copies of your book." And my question is, has the film come in? Because that's what you told me you're doing. You're making a film of the book. Oh, and then he would tell me this one horror story about this one producer that took all the money. And I'm like, "Oh, that sounds shitty. But you're an ex-gangster, so I'm assuming you knocked on his door and broke his kneecaps." "Oh, no, well, he went..." And I was like, okay, left it. A couple of months later, you'd hear again, "How's your movie coming?" "Oh, yeah, I got this other guy, and he took it out to Val Kilmer, and da-da-da-da-da, and I paid for them to fly out there to see Val. But they pitched another film of theirs while they was out there, and that's getting made." I was like, oh, okay. Comes finally the book launch of his second book, and it was in Ponder's End. So he was at this event, and I said, "Mate, 2 books out now. How's the film going about the book? Because that's what you based it on." And he went, "Oh," and he told me this other horror story. And I said, "You know what? I've had enough. Why do you need £1 million to make this? You've never made a movie before. Why do you need this? Why do you make that? Let's go make a film." So literally, that was on a Friday, this book launch was. By Monday, I'd written a script. Never written a script before. Funny enough, I've looked back on it since, and the formatting, I would be ripped to shreds. But I wrote a script, and I said, "Right, here's a script." Went out, got this director from the SEA film school up in London. Said, "Look, I've got this script. I want to make a movie. These are the limitations." And this was 2009. 10 grand. It's a crime gangster thing. I'm going to supply everyone, all the crew, all the cast are going to be proper villains. All going to be on this. This is the story. "Yeah, great. I can bring all the students from the film school. We can get used to the camera." And that's how so within 2 weeks, this guy who'd been going on for 2 years obviously we include him. And we made a movie. And that's how we got into it. So it was more for me to prove a point to this guy. Stop moaning about millions of pounds. Make your movie. Because unless it's the only movie you're making, who cares if it's crap? Because you're then you're going to learn from it and make a second movie and a third movie. That's the problem. Too many people want to make the passion project first, and it's like, why? You're going to make all your mistakes on that. Just bang it out. Remake it 10 years from now if you really need to. What does it matter? And that's how I got into it. So it was such a good laugh on a film set. I mean, anything that could go wrong went wrong. Because none of us had made a movie before. It seemed so easy. You write a script, you point a camera, away you go. And a tip for anyone making a gangster movie, do not fill it with real gangsters. Trust me, they are not actors. There's too many egos in one little room. But yeah, I mean, that had its ups and downs. I mean, I remember one time the camera crew were Israelis. And they came on the students, they said, "Oh, look, we're going to work for this, but can you supply my bus fare?" And I was like, "Yeah, okay, we'll pay for the train." And then by day 2, it was like, "Look, we've got to carry all this stuff. We need a car or a van." So we bought them a car, a little £50 runaround motor. So, well, there you go. "Oh, well, it needs petrol." "Okay, well, here's petrol money for the week." I said, "But now you've got a car, I expect you to pick up the sound guy and the makeup because you've now got a car. So 5 of you can get in the car." 2 days later, it was something else. So in the end, we was at this big scene, strangely enough, at a strip club in Basildon. To which they said, "Right, we now want $2.5 grand each a week to continue shooting." And it was like, enough's enough, fellas. You can fuck off, basically. Can you swear on YouTube? I don't know. You can off.
First 7 seconds.
Yeah, okay. To which they, being Israeli, they was in the young National Guard and whatnot, so they fancied themselves some. The problem with standing up to, one, a 6'2", 19-stone doorman, was that's not going to end too well for you. The worst is when the rest of the cast are also 19-stone, bone crashers, debt collectors, gangsters, fucking all carrying guns. So there was this standoff, and it was a case of they was told very politely to leave the cameras and just go. To which they did. And then obviously the director become a self-shooting director, and we finished the film that way. But it was one of those films that every day was something different. And it was from there, although it was a pain in the arse shoot, and the end result was what it was, you can imagine. But that got me into another film that we shot like over 2 days. And then that got me into something else. And then it got me into another film, which is a whole different kettle of fish, which obviously put a stop on the career path for a few years. And then here we are. So, yeah, I mean, I didn't get it with any real intention to being in the film industry at all. I think it's too cutthroat, too many two-faced people. In fact, there was a more honest life in crime than there is in this industry. But the more you learn, like I say, I'm definitely not for in front of the camera, but the more of the business, like I always say, the more of the business element of showbiz, the more I learn, the more I see the attractiveness to it. So that's how a doorman got into the film. He was out to prove a point to someone else, and I just stayed in it. On the upside, that very same guy last year finally got the movie funded, and it has been shot. So from 2008, 2009, it finally got shot in 2023. So I'm hoping for him and the team that something comes out of that. But he hung in there for a long time, and I admire that. But yeah, I just don't see why you got to be there expecting £1 million and all these famous people on your first movie. I don't get it. So for me, as in what's next for me? Good question. We had a slate of projects that were ready to go with a US backer. Strikes happened. So needless to say, my timing is so fucking crap when it comes to this industry, I tell you. So we had a slate of 3 films. American backer, strikes hit, went on for 6-7 months. So now there's a backlog, and it's like, well, your projects are now down there because we've got to catch up with the one. So it's just like COVID, the 2-year backlog. So that was that. So that was disappointing because we was hoping to be obviously in production already. I do other work for other producers and filmmakers, so not just directing, I line produce and stuff. So there's a couple of projects coming up there. But for me, outside of the ones already ready to go, is the sequel to Fire, Catch Fire. The script's already halfway written. And it's more interesting because we've already established the character. We can go different directions and the dynamics of those who did survive the first one. So it's I would like to get that going if possible. But, again, this is the UK. There is no, unless an American backs it, I certainly don't tick no boxes for the BFI grants, I know that much. It's either that or you go small. It's, we're a country known for either being the facilitator for American studios, or we're the small little guy that makes the movies. People don't give a... It comes out on a Friday, by Monday you're looking forward to the next Friday film, you know what I mean? It's a disposable industry, this country. So I don't know what's next because I play it by ear, because like I say, I'll have this interview with you and I'll go outside and there'll be a phone call and they'll go, and then the next time I go, hey John, you asked me what's next. Well, this is what's next. And, so it's, in an ideal world, it would be at least 2 of the films that I thought we was going to be shooting already, and then the sequel to Fire. In an imperfect world, stay tuned. I'll let you know next time the next job comes up. So when's Fire coming out? It's meant to be this April, depending when this goes out, of course. It's April 2024, and it's to coincide with the physical release in the UK and the USA. So then on all your major platforms after that. How it's meant to be, but God knows, there'll be another strike or another pandemic, and the way my luck runs, it will probably be another 3 years before it comes out. But that's when it's due. thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure being on BritFlicks, and I hope everyone stays tuned, not just to hear more about me, but also all the other comments that's coming.